Thank you, Dr. Reddy's, for inviting me and Oval sir for giving me this opportunity. Today I'm going to talk in breast cancer, preserving bone health. Next slide, please. What I understand, preserving bone health means preventing osteoporosis and fractures in patients who do not have any bony metastasis and preventing further pathological fractures or further skeletal related events in patients with breast cancer who have bony metastasis. Next slide, please. So, what is the significance in breast cancer? The very nice article where the results from Women's Health Initiative. This was published from University of Arizona in 2009. So the title was Fracture Risk Increases After Diagnosis of Breast or Other Cancers in Postmenopausal Women. Next slide, please. So what they did was 146,000 patients, women who are postmenopausal with or without breast cancer, they followed up to see how much in their lifetime they have fractures in these postmenopausal women. So if you are a breast cancer survivor, you have 15% extra risk of having fractures in your lifetime. Next slide, please. How can we prevent this, or can we identify who is at risk? We test bone health in normal patients without bony metastasis with bone mineral density. And this bone mineral density decline is up to the tune of 7% of patients with chemotherapy, 5% patients with GnRH analog, 20% patients with oophorectomy over a period of time. Aromatase inhibitors, if given for 5 years, there is a 9% fracture risk. And if they are given for 10 years, then there is a 14% fracture risk in the lifetime of a patient who has received AI for 10 years. Next slide, please. How many of us do this? I do not know. I also do it very sparingly, but FREX score is a calculation tool which is available specific for India also, which tells us the 10-year risk of fracture. So a patient whom you are starting on AI, this may be a good tool to begin with to understand whether the patient is at low risk or high risk of fracture. Next slide, please. Routinely, what do we do? As Doval sir said in his this thing also, we give calcium supplement, we give vitamin D3, we tell patient to lose weight, reduce carbohydrate consumption, although this is little debatable. Of course, we need to control diabetes and take anti-bone resorptive agents, and that is what the topic of today's webinar is. Next slide, please. This was the first trial. It was a randomized open-label phase 3 trial, adjuvant zoledronic acid in patients with early breast cancer, and this was the final efficacy analysis. Next slide, please. The primary endpoint of AZURE trial was disease-free survival, which was not achieved in this study. But the fracture risk was reduced, bone mets were also reduced. During this time, ZFAST and ZOFAST studies also came, and they showed decrease in fracture risk by use of zoledronic acid. Next slide, please. So this, what people did that they were not sure. So there was a meta-analysis of individual patient data. Now, from EBC-TCG group, adjuvant bisphosphonate therapy in early breast cancer. Next slide, please. 27 studies, meta-analysis was done of individual patient. Although the graphs are not showing too much separating, but you can rest assured that bisphosphonates help in reducing fracture risk and in preventing bony metastasis. In this meta-analysis, there was also some evidence that it may reduce the DFS and OS because of breast cancer in early breast cancer. Next slide, please. Issues which we all face with bisphosphonate in a day-to-day practice is it is intravenous. It requires daycare admission. Infusion reactions we all have seen. Many of our patients have fever of 102, 103 for 2 to 3 days. They have pain. Sometimes they have uneasiness lasting for 3 to 4 days. Osteonecrosis of jaw is reality. KFT monitoring is to be done before every bisphosphonate. And hypocalcemia also is reality which we see from time to time. Next slide, please. So the another drug in question, Horizon, is denosumab. Now, denosumab is a different mechanism of action than bisphosphonates. It's a rank ligand inhibitor. In an osteoblast, that is a precursor bony, this thing, rank gets attached to rank ligand. These rank ligand then increase osteoclastic activity. Denosumab inhibits rank ligand, and as a result, osteoclastic activity is reduced, osteoblastic activity is increased, and bone mineral density is supposed to increase. Next slide, please. In a patient, let's take now two scenarios. One, that a patient already has bony metastasis, and second, patient does not have bony metastasis and in adjuvant settings. If a patient already has bony metastasis, the NCCN guideline version 6 of 2020 says add denosumab, Zoltria or Pamitronet before you do any other anti-cancer treatment. Next slide, please. So what is evidence of denosumab to be added in NCCN guidelines? And the sponsors of denosumab came out with this study. This was published in 2014, where 2,000 odd patients with at least one bony metastasis were randomized denosumab 120 mg once every 4 weeks versus zoledronic acid 4 mg IV every 4 weeks, and there was a suitable appropriate placebo in both the arms. Next slide, please. The primary endpoint of this study was non-inferiority, and the secondary endpoint was superiority. The primary endpoint was time to first online or on-study skeletal related event. As Doval sir mentioned, there are 4 SREs which are defined as any one of the following: either pathological fracture or radiation to bone or surgery to bone or spinal cord compression. Next slide, please. Here, there was a clear-cut benefit of denosumab as compared to zoledronic acid. As regards first skeletal related event, there was an 18% risk reduction. As you can see, the graphs are separating. Subsequent skeletal related event also, as Doval sir mentioned, that if you can prevent the first skeleton related event, you can prevent the subsequent SREs also. And exactly what was seen in this study, that denosumab, in the patients where it prevented the first SRE, it was also helpful in preventing further SRE. Next slide, please. Patient DFS and OS, there was no difference in between the two arms, and even the p-value was not significant. Next slide, please. What did this study conclude, or what did we say so far? In patients with bony mets, denosumab and zoledronic acid are similar in DFS and OS, but as regards SRE, denosumab is better than zoledronic acid. Side effects. Next slide, please. Which one is better? If you this forest plot chart, the left-hand side is denosumab, and start from the top: pyrexia, bone pain, arthralgia, anemia, chills. You name side effects, and denosumab safety profile is better compared to zoledronic acid, except for hypocalcemia, which was more in denosumab. Majority of these hypocalcemia were asymptomatic and could be corrected easily. Next slide, please. ESMO Clinical Practice Guidelines 2020 has come out with this bone health in cancer. Next slide, please. Where they have very categorically mentioned in the lines which I have highlighted, from efficacy, convenience, and renal health perspective, denosumab is the preferred agent. However, from health economic standpoint, generic bisphosphonates can be considered. And because we all know that the cost of denosumab is higher compared to zoledronic acid, and I'm sure if the cost can be brought down, more and more patients can be offered denosumab. Next slide, please. This guidelines also said whether bony mets are asymptomatic or asymptomatic, please start bisphosphonates or denosumab as appropriate in regarding to patient. Let's come to adjuvant settings. We saw benefits of zoledronic acid in adjuvant setting. We also saw that in patients with bony mets, both are equal in terms of disease outcome. Side effect profile favors denosumab. So let's see, do we have data of denosumab in adjuvant setting? Next slide, please. This is one of the very well quoted study, ABCSG 18. That is an Austrian study, a multi-center randomized double-blind placebo-controlled. Lancet 2015 it was published. Next slide, please. What this study did was, in a postmenopausal patients with early hormone receptor positive breast cancer receiving treatment with AI, again 3,400 patients, were randomized into denosumab 60 mg subcutaneous every 6 months. I repeat the dose, 60 mg subcutaneous every 6 months compared to placebo. Next slide, please. The inclusion criteria was, as I mentioned, postmenopausal on AI and early breast cancer non-metastatic. Exclusion, any patient who have received AI more than 2 years or anybody on intravenous bisphosphonate or oral bisphosphonate were excluded from this study. Next slide, please. Primary endpoint was time from randomization until the date of radiograph confirming the first clinical fracture. This was bone health as the topic of webinar today is, and the secondary endpoints were multiple, including disease outcome related secondary endpoints. Next slide, please. So the results were very clearly in favor of denosumab as regards percentage of risk of fracture at 6-month interval and treatment effects on different subgroup. If you see a forest plot chart, there is not a single subset analysis which does not favor denosumab. Next slide, please. And if you see at 36 months after randomization, the first clinical fracture rate was 9.6% in placebo arm compared to 5% in denosumab, almost 50% more. At 84 months, as the time passes, it was 26% in placebo compared to 11% in denosumab arm. Next slide, please. Bone mineral density changes, as you can see, red is denosumab, blue is placebo. In all aspects, bone mineral density of all three parts, total hip and femur, neck, all increased in favor of denosumab. Next slide, please. Safety. Compared to placebo, the total patient incidence of adverse events was exactly same, whether patient or clinician. Next slide, please. So what was conclusion of the study? Adjuvant denosumab 60 mg twice a year reduces the risk of clinical fractures in postmenopausal women with breast cancer receiving AI and can be administered without any added toxicity. Next slide, please. ABCSG is always criticized because of this study, which is called as DCARE, adjuvant denosumab in early breast cancer. Next slide. This was a negative study. It did not achieve its primary endpoint, but DCARE had more high-risk patients compared to ABCSG. Heterogeneous group of patients. Majority of the patient has visceral metastasis compared to bone-related metastasis in this patient. 10% of patients withdrew consent. 1/10 of the patients in DCARE study withdrew their consent, and there was no consistent dose. Initially, it was 4 weekly. Then denosumab was made 12 weekly. Next slide. So in summary, and this is my second last slide, denosumab demonstrated superior SRE prevention versus zoledronic acid, longer time without an SRE, and fewer total SREs. That means you have very long time before any SRE happens. Once that SRE is prevented further in your lifetime, there will be further less and less skeletal related events. Denosumab significantly delayed pain progression. Denosumab safety profile observed in large patient population, and as we have seen that pyrexia, pain, everything else is less. Denosumab had no effect on renal function, and as a result, no dose adjustments were required. Next and the last slide is my take on this topic is, next slide please. In patients with bony metastasis, There is clear-cut evidence that denosumab is equal or maybe superior to zoledronic acid and is preferred over zoledronic acid if patient agrees for the same regarding cost. In adjuvant setting, we have data of benefit with 60 mg 6 monthly, which is extremely convenient. In low risk of early breast cancer, denosumab can be discussed with patient and selected upon, while in high risk, we require more data. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and my topic is over. Thank you.